2 Samuel chapter 7, verse 16. Your house, meaning his dynasty, the Davidic dynasty, this is the Davidic covenant here. Your house and your kingdom shall endure before me forever. Your throne shall be established forever. And this is because Jesus Christ, the Son of David, shall rule forever. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. There it is. Is that it? Okay, so we see that you can't outdo God. I mean, God is... David, how much did David do in building the temple? He didn't do much. But the great thing he did, he was motivated to do it. He desired to do it. And so God built him a house because David had the motivation to build the Lord a house. King Solomon remembered this when you get to 1 Kings chapter 8. Now you go to 1 Kings chapter 8, and that's where you start getting the information about the dedication of the temple. And we have Solomon. This is the son that God said would build the temple. David wasn't going to do it. And he remembers some of this in 1 Kings chapter 8, verse 15 through 18. He, referring to Solomon, said, Blessed be the Lord, the God of Israel, who spoke with his mouth to my father David, and has fulfilled it within his hand, saying, Since the day I brought my people Israel from Egypt, I did not choose a city out of all the tribes of Israel in which to build a house that my name might be there, but I chose David to be over my people Israel. So God is saying, I did not choose a city, and I did not command a permanent dwelling place for me, a house for me. But he chose David, and it was David that had the desire to do it. Verse 17. Now it was in the heart of my father David to build a house for the name of the Lord, the God of Israel. But the Lord said to my father David, Because it was in your heart to build a house for my name, you did well that it was in your heart. You see, everything that we do starts with thinking. It starts from a motivation. And it is extremely important what we do. But what we do is not more important than what we think and what our motivation is. And this is God explaining how wonderful it was that David had that in his heart to build this temple for him. Now, this doesn't mean that God is not interested in what we do or that we aren't required to do anything. In fact, Ephesians chapter 2 verse 10 says that we are created unto good works. I'll tell you what, Ephesians 2, 8, 9, and 10, I tell my congregation, it just blows my doors off. I'm sorry, I'm from the 60s generation. That was the year of the muscle cars. They were all souped up and everything. And if something really was fantastic, you would say, it just blows my doors off. The idea was somebody built a car so fast that when it came by your car, it'd blow your doors off. So I'm sorry for using that. I just keep using it. But it does. I mean, to think that God would do that for a motivation. In James chapter 1, verse 22, it says, But prove yourselves doers of the word and not merely hearers who delude themselves. So we have to have discernment. We have to rightly divide the word of truth because we are commanded to do things and to work, and we are to exercise our spiritual gifts and so forth. But we are to do it with the right motivation. There are untold numbers of believers that are out there hustling for God. They're out there working, and they spend a lot of time, and people look at them and say, oh, they are monumental Christians. Well, they might be professional do-gooders. You can be a do-gooder, but if it's not done with the right motivation, if you're not filled with the Holy Spirit, it's all going to be burned up sooner or later anyway. So I am not exhorting you to sit on the porch and wait for God to just continue to bless you. We are commanded to do things, just like Robbie was saying, Dr. Dean, but we have to do it with the right motivation or it's absolutely useless. Proverbs 19:21 says, "Many plans are in a man's heart, but the counsel of the Lord will stand." You see, David had plans. He wanted to build the house for the Lord, but the counsel of the Lord said, "No, you won't do it," because his counsel stands. Here's another way to put it: man proposes, God disposes. He disposes in more than one way, by the way. So, David was not allowed to build the temple. And in other words, he got a no from God. And to David's credit, he didn't pout. He didn't throw a big pity party. He realized something that we need to realize, and that is that when God does not allow us to go through with our plans, it's because He's got a better plan. I don't know. That sounds simple, doesn't it? I'm still trying to learn it. When God closes a door, sometimes I get sore toes, from doing this number. And over the years, I found out it does no good. So David was a man after God's own heart. And when God said, "No, you will not do it, but your son will do it," then David recognized that he would submit to God's better plan. It's so important for us to recognize that we're not in control. We can plan our way, but when God says no, we have to do something it's a word that I hate. It's a word I wish was not in the dictionary. Some of you probably already know what it is. Wait. Ask my wife. She'll tell you. I do not like to wait. Before I was married, I used to get out of the car. As soon as the motor was off, I would bound out of the car in wherever you're going. When you get married, that's history. Forget it. And I would bound out of the car, and I'm ready to go, and she's putting on makeup and doing her hair, and I'm thinking, didn't she know that she needed to do that while we were still moving, while we were still driving? And I learned to do this. Well, I'm learning to do that. So what we find here is David just learned how to wait and see what would happen. See, if David would have tried to build a temple, it would have been a disaster. He was a warrior. He wasn't a builder. And so what we're going to do now is look at the beginning of the temple